Tritype refers to a 27-point typing system that is an advanced and more specific application of the Enneagram that was created and coined by Enneagram teacher, researcher, and coach Katherine Chernick Fauvre. Tritype, originally named Three Types, Trigrams, and Tricenter, is based on Katherine's theory that while individuals primarily use one Enneagram type as their core type, everyone actually uses three Enneagram types. The dominant Enneagram type within each center of the intelligence, the head, which is 5, 6, 7, heart, which is 2, 3, 4, and gut, which is 8, 9, 1. These three types are used in an oscillating, repeating, descending, and hierarchical stacking order.
Other thing to remember is that with the Enneagram, it's a 9-point system, but based on the divisions of 3, everything in a pattern of 3. Trialectic. Well, Tritype is divisible by 3 as well, but it's a 27-point system. So what's the distinction? The 9-point system of the Enneagram identifies 9 points, whereas the 27-point system of Tritype is recognizing 3 points for each person. So the 3 times 9 equals the 27. So basically, they're both divisible by 3. You can use them separate from one another, but together it's really powerful because it explains nuances and differences within type that couldn't be explained by instinct or wings or lines of connection. And it just emerged quite by itself, just doing qualitative research. Excellent. And Spencer's done his own research too with the Enneagram and conflict. Mm-hmm. And so together we've got about 25 different studies, and there's going to be a new one on the Enneagram, and every type had something similar to every other type and something exactly the opposite with each other type. Now, tests have been made using that theory where you're given opposite and you have to choose, or you're given ones that are similar and you have to choose, or both. And as a result, we're able to kind of get to what we may or may not do. The problem with testing instruments, all of them, is they're really only as good as the person's self-awareness. And many people will ask for help. The Enneagram is the only typology that's based on motivation, not a description. So the more detailed a description is with the Enneagram, there's a greater possibility of mistyping. So anyone that's creative might like a tritype that has the word creative in it, and they may not have a creative type. They might just be a creative person. So all of that's important. And if you're looking at your own test, but you're looking at your friend's test, you want to always ask them why they chose that word. What was it about the card? And then you find out the motivation, why you do what you do rather than what you actually do. And that is so hard to overcome with a 3, 6, or 9 because they are meant, they're hardwired to adapt and kind of hold both their wing types. So if someone has 3, 6, or 9, they can readily identify with all 9 types, and they're meant to. But here's the important distinction. If someone's a 9, they see all points of view. They can identify with every Enneagram type, but they remain unconvinced by any. So it's pretty key. If you notice, Spencer, with your clients where they lead with the head type, is it easy for them to make decisions, or are they always checking and rechecking and making certain that they've got the right answer, or both?
I mean, I guess it depends the weight of the dilemma or the decision, if they are indifferent or not. It just depends how much it's activating their anxiety. Obviously, all three respond slightly different, all driven by a desire to know the information, but they do different things with it. But I find with 6, it's hard to make the decision because they don't want to make the wrong one. 5s don't want to make a decision if they don't think that they're informed enough. They just want to make a decision that, feels intelligent and thought out, and and all that kind of stuff. 7s are the interesting one because it really depends on what they're combined with. But a lot of times it's kind of like it'll, like, life will decide it for me. The universe will, kind of thing. And they'll just pick based on like fun or based on excitement, or if it avoids the negative. It just depends on the specific situation. But if you lead with the head type, I do notice that you kind of stay in that head place a little longer before you can move on to the gut or the heart.
Such a good point, Spencer, because when people are trying to decide what they lead with, of course, I'm noticing if they hesitate, even
Right.
just asking questions during the typing interview. Now, I'm not talking about being reflective to answer a question, but to kind of stop what they feel, they're visceral and they just answer right away. And a counterphobic 6 can do that, but it's something they've already worked out. They already know if this happens, I'm going to do that. But there will be a nanosecond of checking, and then they'll go in. Whereas the 8 is nonchalant about it. It's more like the 8's just going about their life, and then something is like not quite right. And it's like, say what? So we go from nonchalant to asserting to set the record straight, to one way or another have things represent the truth in the way we believe truth is. Having said that, all of us are using our head center to know what we need to know or learn what we need to know to survive. And so the 3 head types are trying to figure out the best way to get the knowledge that will keep them safe. And that wasn't in the early dissemination of the Enneagram that went out. If something isn't a pattern of 3, it's really not Enneagram related or Tritype related. Our heart type is really focused on love-hate. A gut type, it's opposites from the standpoint of black-white, good-bad, right-wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But the heart type is love-hate, and who should we be with to be safe? And then the head type is this one or this one. What data can I get to see if I should do this or this? So it's a calculating, not of emotions, but of thoughts. Whereas like the 2 needs to be the special friend, the special teacher, the special person. Like all heart types want to be special.
Mm-hmm.
But the 3 needs to be the special that's big. There's something definitely they're going for as an audience, not just an individual. Like the 2 will make the connection. And the 4 has to be special in an elite way, has to have exclusivity. Honestly, by finding their unique qualities and identifying with those, it separates them from others, which in some ways feels good because they're more exclusive, but then it immediately sets them up to not be in flow with others the way they want to be. Because how can you be part of a group if you have to be singular within a group? So that's how the 4 struggles. Think of in Ichazo's first grouping, he called the 2, 3, and 4 relation. And so what kind of relationship do we have, which is why it's love-hate. And then the 5, 6, and 7 he changed it to adaptation. Like, how do we adapt to fit in, to get the knowledge or information we need to survive? And the 8, 9, and 1, it's conservation. Well, what do I need to hold on to? And it's a historical ego. It's like remembering where to go to get what you need to have the fundamentals of life. And maybe it's remembering that there's a peach tree that blooms at this time of year. So think of symbolically, like with all things being equal, what do you do to get what you need? And we're going to use all three, but we can really gain a lot by how. If you lead with a gut type, what to like 8, 9, and 1, the distinctions between 8, 9, and 1, because then we'll go from there to see how tritype
is when you combine the different things. Yeah. I know that there's several ways to do this, but for me, it's a connection to anger. I have noticed that with 8, there is a lot more comfort with the anger, and they will more let that flow. It's more upon reflection that they go, maybe I should have paused and assessed further and pulled back and yada, yada, yada. And there can be 8 wounding. I certainly know I had it, where I developed a habit of trying to make myself small and I was mistyped as 7 and 9 like all the time, because I would basically lean on these 2 wings because I didn't want to like dominate someone's birthday or like whatever. It's just like we can just really kind of take up space. When it comes to anger, we see it as a tool. It's what fights for justice. And like, hey, that's not fair. And no, it's like, and we're comfortable with it. 9 is essentially the complete opposite. 9 would like to believe that they don't get angry at all. There's this desire to be, whereas the 8 is desired to feel like and be perceived as the protector, the strong one, the one that will act and do. The 9 wants to be a very stable force, very steady, calm waters. And so by getting angry, they would disrupt the harmony that they so very much seek. Not to mention, they can't say anymore, oh, I'm easy, I go with the flow, I'm chill, I'm laid back, right? These words would be disrupted if they were to engage in that anger. So they tend to suppress and suppress and suppress. I typically refer to the 9 as the sleeping bear, because eventually they get poked one too many times, and then they give you all 50 of the times they were poked. But because they didn't mention the first 49, the other person is bewildered by this juxtaposition of what they expect from this moment versus what's actually occurring, which of course feels incredibly invalidating to the 9 and shows them why they shouldn't get like this and feeds the loop of why they don't connect to that anger. Because see, anger is aggressive and destructive and throws off everything, and people just get upset, and it doesn't really do anything good. It just disrupts harmony.
And causes separation, their core.
Exactly. So they're not seen as a stable force anymore. They're seen as reckless or whatever. So they'd rather just believe they don't get angry at all. And for 1, it's kind of in the middle. They too don't want to get angry. They recognize they get angry, but it's all about the presentation of that anger. They want to be socially correct, politically correct. They want to be ethical and professional, and they want to be seen as controlled. So they will control their anger and try to control how they behave, because they don't want to feel like they've lost control. Because these are guides, these are instructors, these are teachers. These are the ones they want to teach you the ethical and right way to do things. A lot of times when people consider ones controlling, they are not. They are actually trying to help you and guide you to what they truly believe would be best for you. You just need to listen. Just let me show you the way. This will get you there easier, faster, whatever. And they're not really trying to be dun, 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 dun. It just can kind of feel that way. But it's by connecting to that anger, it really just, it makes them want to kind of manage the moment even more. So they engage like an 8 would, but they don't want to address the full anger like a 9. So it's the kind of this in between where it's all about regulation, not realizing that they're still kind of not letting it flow. Now, of course, there are pros and cons to all 3 of these that I've mentioned, but in the end, it is their connection to anger that I've noticed as the biggest separator for all three.
And so what's so great about Tritype, and when I observed it and it became visible to me, I thought, that explains a whole category of people that were atypical, that didn't match their type. If you've done research and you've studied with everyone and you've met with different teachers and teachings, you see how they're different, you see how they're the same, what they've added, what they've misunderstood. Or I remember thinking, oh, if this school just knew this, they would be even better. And if that school knew this, so I always wanted to put it together. And of course, that's what I've done. But it's more complete. It's like the archetypes are fluid, and you don't have a bunch of archetypes for one Enneagram type and then have some types that only have like the servant for the two. Just the names alone of the subtypes of two will prove that two was lost in the dissemination of the Enneagram. Conquest, conqueror, they're strong words. They're not like soft words. And the two, because they know what they want, they can get bigger, but it's not like the six going, it's more like the two moves forward with their chest. And they are reading circumstances and they know what's best, or perceive they do, and will claim that position. Now, they can also be extremely supportive and kind, and so they're like 9 and 6 that way, but it's huge. It's easier to retype yourself if you understand what was lost in the dissemination of the Enneagram. And if you happen to be one of those people that has a type or a tritype where there were key things missing, you might not see it. You really might have to work with someone who knows the fuller descriptions of a type.